Kids Ministry Circle here, and I have my longtime friend and mentor joining me today, Nancy Matossian, and we are going to talk all about hiring in kids ministry. So Nancy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, thank you for having me. My name is Nancy, and I have been in kids ministry for a very long time. My background is actually in theater, and I transitioned into weekend kids ministry when God called me to do my first role. And then since then, even though I did tell him I would prefer not to be a statistic for 3 to 5 years, since then I've actually served in 7 different churches. And I have worked at churches that are small, like 25 kids on a Sunday, up through 800 plus on a Sunday, from the West Coast to the East Coast. So it's been quite an adventure and quite a journey, following God where he was leading. And then in all of that, I have also had the opportunity to be just highly connected in the industry and work with different organizations and kids ministry influencers. So I'm excited to be here.
Yay, it's so fun. So fun fact, Nancy was my kids pastor growing up. So we go way back. She's known me since I was in, like the 4th grade?
Yes.
So very fun. All right. So we know that the hiring process can be daunting when you have a team member or a spot to fill on your team. And there's a lot of questions. Where do you post jobs? What do you put on a resume? What do you look for? How do you do the interview process? All the things. And when it comes to finding the right person for your team, you want to take the time to make a good hire. You want to make sure that they'll fit with your team and your culture and your staff and serve your kids ministry well. So we're going to go big picture and think about, hey, you've got a spot to fill. Where do you start? So here we go. First question. Nancy, so you just found out that you will need to hire. What do you do first? What's your first step in the hiring process?
Okay. Well, and also I would just like to say that for the last 7 years, I've had an opportunity to be in this industry as well, which we will talk about later.
Yes.
So that's why you're specifically asking me this question. Yes. Okay. So as far as your first step, you want to definitely take a big look at the role and the culture that you're trying to fill. And kind of create that small paragraph of the heart of what you want to add to your team and who you want to impact the kids at your church.
Yeah, that's great. So assessing kind of where you are now.
Yeah.
And of course, in this whole process, you want to bring in whoever your boss is, and maybe you have an HR team that you want to bring into this process and just kind of work with your people to assess kind of what do we want for this role? Do we need to change the role? Do we need to combine roles to make it work? So,
and sometimes churches will have search teams and committees depending on denomination as well. So
very true. All right, so next question. Where is the best place to post a job posting?
Okay, we get this question all the time, and it is very important. So if you're looking to hire local, you would want to use a platform like Indeed. That platform is, it does matching. It does matching by location and by some of the keywords. When you want to go bigger, you can definitely look at a place like church staffing, but I don't necessarily recommend posting on church staffing as much as going through all of the candidates that put their own resumes on church staffing. So that's a better way to go if you know exactly what you're looking for and where you want them. If you are going to go more broad and say national will move someone, that kind of thing, then I definitely recommend posting on bigger platforms and looking at maybe even a search firm to be a partner with you. And then even smaller, okay, I'm going to go even smaller. The different kinds of neighborhood apps that are out there right now that you can connect through, and then looking at elementary schools and looking at places where people actually love kids and they know how to organize things for kids, and then they could be a part of a church body. So that is, that's probably what I would recommend.
Yeah, that's good. That's big to small. So Indeed, church staffing. I know that in the past I've found jobs on the Gospel Coalition's website.
Yes. Even through like some of the organizations like Orange.
Yeah.
And places like that.
Yeah.
Children's Pastors Conference, they also have their own job board as well.
That. Oh, nice. And then small, like when you're thinking assistant, associate, coordinator, internal's always a great spot to go for looking for those hires, but also what Nancy said of like, hey, look at the teachers in your sphere and maybe they want to join the church staff. Or what would you say about college students and posting it on college job boards? Is that like a pro, con?
You can definitely do that. There's a lot of colleges that actually give the opportunity for kids to have experience before they graduate, instead of just looking at them like they're coming out of college and they have no experience. So yes, one of the big platforms for that right now though is Handshake. And you would be a part of the Handshake. A lot of the schools actually are narrowing it to where they don't have a job board that's posted anymore. You have to go through the Handshake site. So, yes and.
Yeah, nice, that's good. All right, what are some important details to put in a job description?
Okay, so I tend to lean highly relational, and when you're looking for a kids ministry person, standard is to say we'd like somebody with 3 to 5 years experience with a church bigger than ours or the same size as ours. Everyone says that. So I would recommend something personal, something specific to your church. Again, that one paragraph, I started there because I knew I wanted to mention it later, but having a sentence that is kind of that grab, like this is what our church is about, and this is, and not even when you pop up the website, what is first written, what is that called?
Mission and vision.
Yeah, mission and vision, thank you. Not even the mission and vision, because that is still going to be something that they can find when they look at the website, but something that could grab them and say, oh, I can be a part of this, or my heart connects to this, because that's the person that you want.
Yeah.
3 to 5 years experience, great. Size of church, fine. But you could find somebody, like you said, straight out of college that actually has the heart and has been in kids ministry serving since they were 10 or whatever, right? They understand that, they can learn fast, but they connect to the heart of your church and what you're doing. Yeah. That's going to be the longevity. And that's what's going to grab somebody to even apply for your job. Because if all of job descriptions say the same thing, we want somebody who is competent, somebody who is, they all say similar things. So I think the most important part is to put something unique to you in the job description, and also to not put too many words.
Yeah,
there is a tendency to, okay, we're going to ask you to work this many hours, you're going to have these roles, you're going to have this and this. But the problem with that is that you can describe what you would like covered, but you're also talking about the last person who was there. So if you want somebody who is actually innovative, or somebody who's creative, or somebody who is going to build your ministry, then you want to leave a little bit to the imagination on, they know what the general roles are for kids ministry, so put the general things. But to put too many details is going to limit you in the end, where you're going to be going, oh wait, but I needed you to do this job over here too, that's also in kids ministry, and it's like, but you didn't put that on the 5-page job description. So that's what I would say, not too many words.
No, that's really helpful. So now you've posted your job description somewhere on the internet, handed it to somebody. What are some things that you look for in a resume as resumes start coming in, as you start getting people interested in the job? What are you looking for when you first glance at a resume?
Because the resume is so one-dimensional.
Yes.
It's like, how do I not eliminate great people? Well, first of all, if they don't send a cover letter, I would request a cover letter. That's like the first thing that I do. If there's something in the resume, anything at all, like even if it's experience, like even a barista, or somebody who's been on a big team, like worked at a movie theater and been at the top of it, or just any of those kind of roles, even if there's like no church experience listed, especially, and my brain is going right now to like the Indeed ones, because it doesn't give you a lot of specifics to a role. So it'll just do this general resume. But if you see a cover letter that says, but I grew up in the church, I volunteered at 3 different churches for 17 years. that won't say it inside of, so, and this is God's called me out of what I've been doing into ministry. All of those things are not going to show up in the resume. So I look at a resume, I do look at either location, where people are located, if it's going to be a local job, but then to kind of look through the heart of it, where have they gotten their jobs? Where did they go to school? They can put a little line down here that's a Bible college, but the rest of the resume says nothing about church. You've got to look at the little details when you get that kind of resume. Now, if you're getting standard resumes where someone's applying and they've done their own resume, then I look at denomination, I look for theological connections, I look for whatever they list. A lot of times people will list underneath the church they worked for, and they'll list the things that they were in charge of. You can kind of see their heart sometimes. And if that is, if they listed their favorite thing were all of the events, and they listed 10 events, and you're all, okay, this is an event-driven person,
Yeah.
That's where they're passionate, that's where they had fun, so those are kind of some of the top things I look for.
Yeah, that's good to know. That's good to know about a cover letter. How the cover letter gives people the opportunity to
tell their story.
Tell a little bit of their story. And so if you're watching this and you're looking to apply for a job, don't forget a cover letter. That's good. Okay, so you've gotten all the resumes, and now we're moving on to the interview process. Who should be in your interview process? Who are you going to invite in to help you process through all the different candidates?
Well, it depends on who you want to feel. Okay, two ways. One, depending on your church hiring, some churches already have it set up that they meet HR, they meet executive, they meet, great. If you don't have a hiring process set up, then I definitely recommend the supervisor have at least 2 interviews. The first one needs to be a phone call that is relational. Just have hey, I saw your resume and I was wondering if you had 5 minutes to talk. What was exciting about this position? What was, right? And then a real interview. Okay, let's set up the real thing and, do a in-person or Zoom if you have to. After those 2 personal calls and that first interview, I would just recommend you make it feel very professional to the interviewer. So, and I say professional, not this is our perfect church, but more you care enough that you're going to research this and make sure that they are the right person to come to your team, but you're making sure that it's right for them as well, because you want to make sure it's good for their family, for their transition, especially if they're moving and you call someone to move and then they don't fit in there because somewhere along the line they didn't hear the right story or meet the. So I definitely would recommend, even if you bring them for a site visit, you have them do key volunteers and just your top leadership in your ministry, and not for as much the interview as much as have them do something social together, go to lunch, have a so that you can even see on both ends if everyone connects,
right?
And if there's that relational, again I mentioned relational because it's just important to me. I really believe that makes a difference in longevity at a church and in a body, and so that's did I answer that completely?
Yeah.
I feel like
no, that's
other
great.
people I could say, but I think some of what you're asking is definitely logical, but then I see what you're saying on the other side. Who else would I recommend being involved?
I know for me, when I've always interviewed people for jobs and I was a supervisor, I always brought in our student director.
That's a good one.
I think just bringing in that different perspective, but within the same team, I think that always brings a different element of hey, no, we are an entire family ministry team that cares for families across the whole age spectrum. And so that's always been a fun thing because then it shows the candidate hey, we have a really good working relationship with the student ministry and we value that, and we want you to also get to know this team because we work closely with them. So that's just a fun thing that I always do.
And another, I just thought of while you were saying that, if you have somebody else on the leadership team who also, like on staff,
Mm-hmm.
who also has kids in the ministry, even if they're in a completely different department, know nothing about kids ministry, that's a good person to bring in because they have, they have stake in it with their kids in there, and yet, so to get all of those different perspectives, that's incredibly valuable. Yeah,
no, that's great. I would always recommend having a team. You cannot, or you can, but it's a lot harder to hire on your own. Mm-hmm. So I would always bring people into that conversation so you can ask different questions and bounce ideas off of, and so a team is always a great way to go. All right, next question with the interview process. What are some of your top favorite interview questions? Like, aside from the generic stuff, aside from like, tell me your story, when did you make the decision to follow Jesus, like all of those basic ones that we ask in the interview process, which are all very important, but what are some top ones that just maybe require a little bit more thought behind it and maybe are a little bit unique?
Okay. So, I'll start with my most unique one, which is I love to ask interviewees to show me what it would look like or describe how they would tell a 9-year-old kid what it means to follow Jesus. So more not really acting it out. Some people will just go, oh, okay, I'll pretend you're the child, and then they go into it. But you learn a lot about if they can communicate with kids, mm-hmm. and if they can communicate the gospel with kids, mm-hmm. and what it means to follow Jesus. Okay, so that's one that always, it kind of puts people on the spot too, so sorry, people who are being interviewed, and they asked that question. And then some other key questions are to ask them stories. So describe to me or tell me about one kid that you had that you can that you had a big influence on, and mm-hmm. then other way around as well. Tell me a story of somebody who influenced you when you were a kid, mm-hmm. and not just like who's your greatest influencer in your life. Right. No. Like, I want a story. I want the person's name. I want to see in their eyes that matter to them. Yeah. So it's questions that kind of break down I have to be my perfect self and answer properly. It's like, no, tell me a story. Yeah. Tell me a story. Tell me a story about your favorite VBS theme that you've ever done, or your favorite event that you got to decorate or you saw the most life change. Mm-hmm. And some churches do these incredible like father-daughter things, and then that's what you're going to see their heart in their eyes, and you're going to hear their voice share with you what their passions are. You're going to get through all of that, like proper, I'm going to show you my best self. Yeah. You know? Yeah. So. No, that's good. I'm like thinking through all my answers. How would I answer those questions? No, that's awesome. Okay, so we've gone through setting up for the interview process. Now we've talked about what questions do we ask. So now in the hiring process, you found your top candidate or maybe top 2. What do you do next now that you've kind of narrowed it down a little bit? Okay, so this is like after, if they decided to bring them on for a site visit. Yeah, so site visit is included. Is already done, or it's coming? Well, maybe talk about the site visit a little bit. Okay, so you want them to be able to come and experience your church and experience what's going on. If they're serving somewhere else, that can be a little bit difficult, so be flexible. But the idea of them getting to sit through a service or walk around and have the freedom to explore, ask questions, meet with people, have lunch with some different, if you look at it and you plan it well, you can say, oh, this family of this, this potential or this candidate's mm-hmm. family has a 4 and a 5-year-old. And so then you go, oh, well, this awesome family over here from the church who is super involved in, okay, so let's invite them to lunch too. And let's show them that there's a community there mm-hmm. and if they can connect. So those are, the other stuff, meet with different people and all that stuff, they got that. But just making sure that you're really looking at the big picture of the culture, because the visit is not about the interviews, and the visit is about the connection, and if they would be comfortable there, and if they feel like it could be their family and their home and all of that. So that would be my recommendation. And then for Next steps after that, once you've kind of done that with 2 different people and you've brought them both on campus and you have had conversations with all the people that they met, right? You want to make sure that the people you invited to lunch, they have a voice in sharing with you what they would like. Then you can go on to, okay, these are going to be our last steps. You want to do a background check on people. You want to do, and background check, you have to do it yourself because no one shares. So if you haven't learned that yet in kids ministry, you have to do individual to your location, because even in school districts, they get fingerprinted everywhere, and you have to say, no, we're going to do it again. Fingerprinted, live scan, background check, and then you could have kind of those last conversations of, where is your heart? Where are you feeling, God's calling you? What is exciting about this potential opportunity? And then stepping into, am I going to go into money, or are you going to ask me another question?
Oh, we'll get to money.
Okay, so
that was my next question.
Stepping into the offer, because the offer, it really is a lot of discernment and wisdom. It really is getting people to make sure that they're praying with you through the journey. Even if they're not going to be in the interview process, you could totally put a prayer team together that starts at the beginning and says, you're going to be our transition prayer people. And then you can turn around and look at the candidate and say, we've had people praying for you from the beginning.
Yeah.
There's so many unique things that you could do outside of just this standard job hiring process to really make sure that it is a fit and that it is going to build longevity, and it's going to build a really neat home for someone to come and minister.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the prayer team part. That's really sweet. Okay, now we can talk about money. So where in the process do you recommend talking about money, bringing that up in the conversation? Money is such a unique thing to each church, and I do feel like based on where you're at, what your budget is, how much you allocate towards staff salaries, if they're hourly, there's so many different nuances to money. So when do you recommend talking about money? How do you recommend having that conversation, and what that looks like?
It's kind of a broad answer, because there are some candidates that would prefer not to carry on a continued conversation until they know a range to see if it's even feasible for their family.
Right.
Okay, so then if they step out and ask, then you answer it. You don't wait till, if money is not the first primary thing on the table where people aren't asking about it, or then I usually would recommend you wait even until you get to those last conversations with the offer, because then you're looking at the opportunity to offer really high. If you really want the person, you have the opportunity to offer, at the max of what you guys can do. And then if they come back with, I was hoping for this much money, you can have that conversation back with the church, the elders, the session, all of the, however your church is structured, the leadership. So, and decide if you want to find it in your budget to raise to that. If you give them a number right up front, then you are settling on that number, and so are they. So it's kind of a, oh dear, can we, should we, and then when it gets down to it. So you're leaving room, I know I feel like I'm talking all over the place, you're leaving room in the end for that conversation to determine how important it is for you to have this person on your team. If this certain amount is what their family needs, regardless, and you want to make that happen, then you would go for it.
Yeah.
If you're in the beginning and going, I cannot go above this number at our church at all, and you're looking at all these top people who make more than that, you better bring the number up soon.
Right.
Because there are opportunities for people who have made a lot of money before, but they're in a new season and they're like, oh, yeah, no, I want to be at this church. It's not about the money. So that's why I say it's such a broad answer, because I don't think I would have a set rule if I was any church. I think I would start with a range that I know we can handle as a church within our budget, and then I would begin conversations around that. Now, one of the things that you could come up against is in posting, a lot of times it asks for amount for salary.
Okay.
And then, but you can also choose to not have that as part of the posting. So look into that, because you have to answer the question, it's required, but then you also have the option to say, leave this out of the actual posting. So, so it just, you can eliminate people from a number, you can draw the wrong kind of people from a number, you can overpromise to people that have never made that much before. You can,
Okay, on the flip side, if you are a candidate applying for a job, what are some tips? What are some tips on how to have the money conversation as a candidate?
Okay, as a candidate, first of all, I would make sure that I was checking like the cost of living where you're talking to, and just set your expectations up well. Because someone who's getting paid top dollar in California moving to the Midwest, it could be perfectly equivalent, but it's not going to look like that. Okay, so you have to go into the conversation with your expectations at a good place. If your family is a family of 5 kids and mom and dad, and you're like, this is what we're going to need, it's our only income, then you have the conversation earlier on. Don't waste anybody's time, and just say, what is it that you guys are going to be able to offer, and the church needs to have that ready, but, and then, go from there. And there's very few churches that are going to be super offended by that question. Some will. I'm not going to, snow over that one. But most of the time, if you ask it in a way that it's like, okay, I have 5 kids, that we, but then sometimes it's, oh yeah, the spouse has a job that is remote. So we don't need that much money. We just need this much. So you have to hear the story. You have to be willing to hear the story. If you're back to the church, you have to be willing to hear the story behind the question. And understand why it's being asked up front.
No, that's good. Super helpful. Okay, so you've offered the candidate the job. You've talked about money. You've done all the things. They've said yes. You have a party. It's so exciting. Someone new is joining your team. What are some steps that you have found that are really helpful in that onboarding process? You're welcoming someone to the team. They're new. Maybe they just moved there. What does that look like for the onboarding process into welcoming a new team member?
First and foremost, I would say give them time and space. Many churches, by the time they find a new children's director or a kids pastor, they are desperate. They are like, oh my goodness, we've been without one for so long. Here, hit the ground running your first day. And some of the best steps that I've seen taken are, first day, have a meeting with HR. Second day, have lunch with a few of the staff members. Give them a tour, walk them around slowly, give them an opportunity to have that space and time, and then give them the opportunity to be sitting at their desk going, because it will never happen again.
That's very true.
Yes, I mean, I'm serious. It's like, so let them sit in their space. Let them be. And, give them 2 hours to sit up. Give them books to read. We'll have, in the first 2 weeks, and I say this is around 2 weeks that you want to give them this kind of this time. Because in the first 2 weeks, they're going to meet 1 million people. The emotional and mental overload is it's not going to match up to the physical that we give in kids ministry later. So let them look through all of the old files that are in the system. Let them, give them space. Do not give them a meeting every single hour and feel like they need to sit next to you for 4 or 5 hours to just, watch everything that's going on and learn. No, but give them permission for space and time. And then some of the things that you value. If your favorite kids book is this one, then say, hey, in your first 2 weeks, I just want you to just skim through this book, because this is important to me. And then when they find that time to sit there, and then one of the other, gifts that some churches are able to give is a coaching experience. And doing that first 90 days somewhere, it progresses them forward pretty fast into the culture and the role. And there's so much more than just the job of kids ministry, which we know that, because the job itself we can do.
Yeah.
But it's all of the meeting of the people and all of the learning of the culture and all of that needs to take the time. And we never leave space.
Yeah.
We never leave space. We're afraid to leave space. We're afraid to let people sit at their desk for 2 hours with absolutely nothing to do. Because then you're just like, oh no, what if they don't feel valued or they don't feel...
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's important.
Yeah. No, that's really...
Oh, and the decorating of their desk.
Oh, yeah.
And
all
the welcome and all, of course.
Yes.
You know.
You like put all of the church swag that you've ever purchased ever. Just on their
right
desk.
out of the resource room. Just like, look, you have 5 t-shirts to choose from.
Oh man, that's such a good word, especially if you're watching this and you're just about to head into a new role. Don't feel the need to hit the ground running, right? Take that time, get to know your team, get to know your volunteers. I love that piece of just walk through the space. Just learn, like some churches have really unique classroom names. Learn the classroom names. Know where you're going. Know where to point people. Take the time to really just ease into the new role. That's really sweet. Okay, you talked about coaching, and that is a really great transition into kind of our last question. Sometimes churches can go through the hiring process all on their own, and it's great, and they find a great fit. But there are other times where it's really helpful for churches to have someone to partner with an organization who can help them in the hiring process. So Nancy's going to talk about that and what that looks like. Because for some churches, bringing in people who are experts is incredible and really helpful. So talk about that for a little bit.
One of the things that I learned in starting with the Slingshot Group, so the other organization that I mentioned earlier is Slingshot Group. When I started with them, and even just watching the heart of this organization, we realized that churches, when we work at a church, we don't have time for anything else. Your head is down, you are going forward, and the idea of having to weed through all of the postings and learn how to post and have connections is overwhelming, and it is hard. And so this organization was started based on churches needing help. So we call it a partnership. The churches come in, they hire us to be their advocate, to be their associate. And what it looks like is we come in for one on-campus visit where we do a full assessment of the kids ministry, and then we build a church profile, kind of like a mini website that's based on that job description. And then we start with our networks, and we just spread the word and find people to present to them. So it takes away all of the day-to-day things, and some churches struggle with that. I've worked with churches where they're like, oh, we have a search team, and the search team feels like they're not doing anything, and it's like, well, they're not, because I'm doing it all. But when I present you with your 3 to 5 candidates, then they'll be doing something.
Yeah.
So just tell them it's okay, So it is a little bit different for some churches to picture it that way, and to realize that it can be a huge help, and it does help with longevity because of all of the screening and the process that we put them through first, and then they put them through, and it just it can be a really good pairing. And no, it's not for every church. And some churches, they have a need that's even for their leaders that are there already, or for a leader that they're hoping to bring up out of college or something like that. And so we do have a coaching portion as well, where we can coach people who are already in the position, or if you're like, oh, this elementary school teacher really wants to do kids ministry, needs to learn about, we can coach that. So basically, overall, we want to help churches. Yeah. And our whole team of associates have all been in ministry for years, and most of us still are to some degree. And so our heart is to help the church and help them impact more and more families for Christ.
Okay, that is awesome and so great. So if people want to learn more about Slingshot, want to learn more about coaching, where's the best place to find you, to contact you? What does it look like?
So the Slingshot site is slingshotgroup.org.
Okay.
And that is a great place to look up jobs that we have posted right now if they're interested in finding a place to serve. And then for me, they can just reach out to, it's my first initial and last name, nmatossian at slingshotgroup.org.
Great. And we will put all the information in the show notes for you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Any last thoughts? Any last words of wisdom? Anything you want to share?
Can I share how amazing you are?
Oh, jeez.
I'm so excited about Kids Ministry Circle. Should I do a little commercial for you?
Sure.
But yes, I don't know what I would say at the end of, no. I can't,
That's
you
okay.
have to give me a second to think of that. But I'll do a commercial for you.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna do it. Ready? Okay, I'm so excited about Kids Ministry Circle and the fact that you have taken all of your experience in your churches, in the kids ministry, and everything you've done, and you have developed from your heart for us as leaders a way to get us networked, a way to give us resources, and I'm just so excited about what you're doing and where you're going, and you're going to do big things.
Thanks. Thanks. Thanks for watching, you guys. I hope that this is helpful in your hiring process and the process to find new team members for your staff. I would love to know what you learned or your takeaways from this video, so throw those in the comment section. Subscribe to our channel if you want to learn more about Kids Ministry Circle, how to join a cohort, how to get involved. Head over to kidsministrycircle.com, and there's lots to explore over there. Thanks, you guys. See you next time.